Most fans of a sport, no matter which one, have a favorite team. That one team that, no matter what happens, they root for through the thick and thin. I've got those teams too. The Denver Nuggets in the NBA, the Atlanta Braves in the MLB, and the Detroit Lions and Atlanta Falcons in the NFL. During the Overwatch League, I had a team too. The Atlanta Reign. I grew up as a fan of Atlanta sports since my family is from there. And though I may not live there anymore, Atlanta teams hold a special place in my heart, and the Reign were no different. I began watching the Overwatch League as a high schooler, and now, as an adult who can drink and pays bills, I look upon the Overwatch League with a lot of nostalgia, and a lot of that is for the Reign. Today, I wanted to take a look at the history of my favorite franchise, going over its history, its players, and my favorite moments and memories from this team. Before we begin, please consider taking a moment to subscribe to the channel if you like my videos. It's super fast, easy, and free, and helps me out more than you can realize. With that said, let's go all the way back before the Reign existed, back to 2018 during the inaugural season. In 2018, there were only 12 teams, and I remember supporting the NYXL mostly because of Jonak, and being kinda casually into the esport. I remember 15-year-old me watching the Stage 2 and 3 finals, and it was really cool to watch this new game that I had gotten attached to begin to succeed. I was definitely a fan, but my plunge into the Overwatch League insanity had only just begun. In 2019, the league announced that they would be adding 8 new expansion franchises, one of which happened to be in the same state that I grew up in, and in the moment, I became a Reign fan for life. The Reign signed their starting roster, which has several legends like Gator, Masa, Pokpo, Fried Wiener, Dogman, Erster, and even a young funny Astro. They even had fun players like Dako and Baby Bay. This team immediately had so much charm, and I loved their cocky, aggressive style. In their first few games, the Reign weren't a super dominant team, but they strung together some nice wins, and they started out the season 7-7 across the first 2 stages. I think my favorite game during this span was their surprise win over the NYXL in Stage 2, where Erster went absolutely nuclear, especially on King's Row, and he really put the Reign on the map as a potential underdog. Then they did it again 2 weeks later, taking on the NYXL in a 5-map banger, giving the NYXL their only 2 losses of the stage, both of which were to us. Despite not making the Stage 2 tournament, I had a lot of hope and optimism heading into the second half of the season. However, Stage 3 was painful, as the Reign lost several really close games, including 3 Map 5 losses to the San Francisco Shock, Philadelphia Fusion, and Shanghai Dragons. We fell down to 9-12, and I thought that maybe our playoffs hopes were finally over. Until Stage 4 added Rollock, ending GOATs once and for all, and allowing the Atlanta Reign's DPS players to finally shine. In Stage 4, Erster went nuclear, claiming 6 match MVPs in 7 games, and leading the Atlanta Reign to an undefeated 7-0 stage, with wins over teams like the Spark, Uprising, and Spitfire. Somehow our 9-12 record had transformed into a 16-12 record, and we were playoff bound in year 1, which felt amazing after the Atlanta Falcons went 7-9 and missed the playoffs that year. Despite being negative just a stage prior, the Atlanta Reign were somehow the number 6 seed, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I really bought into the hype. After going on that 7-game winning streak, I think most fans would probably delude themselves into thinking that they were gonna win it all. But a terrifying matchup against the dominant number 3 seed San Francisco Shock in round 1 was horrifying going into the playoffs. The Shock also went 7-0 in Stage 4, the only other team who did that, and they looked like the real team to beat. So when we somehow beat them, it was one of the hypest moments as a Reign fan. It was in Map 7, tied 3-3, and it looked like the Shock had us beat, as Choi Hyobin lifted up like half the team in his flux. But the Shock C9'd, resulting in one of the craziest upsets in Overwatch League history, causing Moth to look on in shock as he was sent down to the lower bracket. For about 2 days, I was on top of the world, talking to my friends about how the Reign were going to win it all. But in the semifinals, the NYXL sent us back to Earth with a close but humbling 2-4 loss. And in the lower bracket, we would be swept by the Spark in a brutal revenge game and be eliminated 5th-6th. I watched as the Shock, who had beaten just days before, swept their way through the entire lower bracket and won the 2019 finals without dropping a single other map. Despite the loss, 2019 was still an incredible season. I mean, I didn't even think we'd make the playoffs, let alone be the only team to take a map off the Shock. Besides, for an expansion franchise in year 1, top 6 was one hell of an achievement. Surely 2020 would be even better, right? Right? In the 2020 offseason, we ended up only losing Dako, Baby Bay, and Enlayer, and our new signings were definitely something to be hype over. We signed DPS players Sharp and Edison, as well as Saucy midway through the season. Most notably, we also signed rookie tank player Hawk, who had been playing at a crazy level on Atlanta Academy, the Atlanta Reigns Contenders team. Yeah, you guys remember Academy teams? Me neither. Midway through the season, we also signed a rookie support player Iris, but he wouldn't really play much in 2020. He'll be more important later. As the season began, a lot of Reign fans, myself included, had some pretty high hopes from last year. And the Reign started out really strong, going 3-1 throughout February and March, only losing a series to the very good Paris Eternal, who had just signed superstar rookies Sparkle, Hanbin, Xe, and Fielder. However, at the end of March, COVID pandemic began and the Overwatch League was heavily affected. Games and LANs were getting cancelled, players were getting sick, and the league was scrambling. I'm not sure how much the Reign were affected, but their results were, going 2-4 and entering the first tournament, which had been delayed until May, sitting at a 5-5 record. The Reign did get a win over the Toronto Defiant during the seeding qualifications, but they get bounced by the Florida Mayhem in their way to the finals in the first round. To be honest, by this point in the season, I actually really wasn't watching the Overwatch League, since my life had been kinda all over the place, with not only a move to a new town and school, but also the pandemic. The only matches of the Summer Showdown I watched were both of the Eternals' back-to-back wins over the Shock and Fusion, which were some of the best games ever. The Reign went 2-1 in this span, but they didn't win a tournament game. In the Countdown Cup, the Reign surprised everyone by going 3-1, which is where I got right back into watching again. We crushed the Titans in the seeding games before getting obliterated by the Mayhem 0-3 in the tournament. Despite literally zero tournament success in 2020, the team remained somehow mid, ending the season on a 4-game losing streak and finishing with a 10-11 record. Despite the not really terrible but not good season either, everyone was actually given a chance at the playoffs in the 2020 season, and despite not earning it, the Reign had a real chance at winning it all. In the play-ins, we beat the Boston Uprising to advance to the actual bracket as the number 7 seed. We faced off against the Paris Eternal in round 1. This match was probably one of the best from the Reign all season, going the distance and upsetting the number 3 seed Eternal with a crazy Reaper performance from my GOAT, Edison. The Reign would end up losing to the Shock and later the Mayhem, finishing in 5th-6th for NA. For how up and down the season was, it's not a bad playoffs performance, but left a lot to be desired. Alright, before we get into it, I'm going to go ahead and say it. 2021 Reign are easily my favorite team ever, so this is going to be a very long section of this video. This was the season I really got into the Overwatch esports community, interacting with socials and players and watching most of the games. The roster the Reign had in 2021 was small, but it was really good, with some very interesting underdog potential. In the offseason, the Reign lost a lot of players, including Fire, Saucy, Pokepo, and Sharp. On top of this, some of my personal favorite players left, those being Erster and Dogman. It was really sad to see these guys go, as they were a major part of the team who I still feel like had more potential left over. However, our new roster was really good, so I can't really complain. We retained both Masa and Iris on support, as well as Hawk and Gator on tank. A lot of people thought that these guys weren't going to be all that good in 2021, but these 4 were soon going to show the league a whole new level to them. As for the DPS line, we kept Edison from 2020 and added 2 major signings on DPS. The first was KSP, now known as Kai, who we got from the LA Valiant. The other DPS was a very hyped up Korean rookie, Pelican. This guy had a ton of potential from Korean contenders, and lots of people had him in the early Rookie of the Year conversation. The season started out a little slow, getting beaten by the Shock in a map 5, as well as a reverse sweep by the Defiant, and Atlanta would start out 1-3 and miss the May Melee. But in June, the Reign would turn it up quite a lot. In the first match in June, the Reign faced off against the 4-0 Outlaws, who hadn't lost a regular season game yet, and the Reign, off the back of Kai mostly, upset them in a really good game to hand them their first regular season loss. The Reign would also beat the lowly Spitfire and Titans 3-0 before suffering their only loss of the stage to the LA Gladiators, where Birdring just kinda tore us to shreds. Still, we went 3-1 and qualified for the June Joust tournament as the number 3 seed in NA. After a quick 3-0 against the Uprising, we faced off against the 4-0 Shock in a match to decide who goes to the main tournament. Despite how high the stakes were, the Reign played perfectly. Their Moira Lucio Reaper zombie comp that they had was just so good, and it was way too much for San Francisco to handle. And we swept right through them, advancing to the main tournament for the first time this season. In the bracket, we would defeat the NYXL 3-0 in a great performance, but we just couldn't beat the dominant Shanghai Dragons or Dallas Fuel, and we finished in third. Still, a third place finish is more than good enough, especially considering we were only 4-4 at this point. In the Summer Showdown, we continued where we left off, having seemingly kind of found our rhythm in the season, going 3-1 with our only loss being a close 5-map series against the top-seeded Dallas Fuel. In the qualifiers, we survived a very close game, going all the way to map 5 against the LA Gladiators, mostly in part to Iris' incredible Baptiste play, and we qualified for the tournament. In said tournament, though, we would get swept by Shanghai before losing a heartbreaking series to the Fuel, 2-3, and finishing in 4th place. In the Countdown Cup, the Reign were on fire. At this point in the season, we were 7-5 with a pretty good shot at the playoffs, and we had made it to back-to-back tournament appearances. In Week 1, we won yet another crazy map 5 against the Gladiators and swept through the Outlaws, beating 2 potential playoff teams back-to-back. We won yet another Game 5 against the Mayhem to hold them off in the upset, and we even managed to beat up the Dallas Fuel, who were sandbagging a little bit before the playoffs. Still, this was a 4-0 finish, and we'd finish out the season with an 11-5 record, which is insane considering that we started out the season 1-3 before going 10-2 to finish out the season. However, our key player, rookie DPS player Pelican, was hospitalized and had to play on ping for the rest of the season. We entered the Countdown Cup after a close game against the Toronto Defiant, making it to our 3rd consecutive international tournament, which was really impressive considering only 4 teams, and only 2 from each region, got to make it to them. We beat the Dynasty in round 1, but we just couldn't beat the Hunters or Gladiators, and we finished with another 3rd place. Still, despite not winning a tournament or anything, getting 2 podium finishes in one season is an amazing accomplishment, and the playoffs were yet to come. The 2021 playoffs were one of my favorite weeks of Overwatch, period. I remember getting home from practice every night and staying up late to watch each game. This single tournament is the main reason why this channel exists, being my single defining moment where I truly fell in love with the Overwatch League, the Overwatch esports scene, and the Atlanta Reign. Anyone who knew me at the time could tell you just how excited I got during this tournament, and it's crazy because of how low my expectations were. I thought that we'd probably maybe win 1 or 2 games, beating one of those lower seeds in a lower bracket match, but I could have never predicted what happened next. Now, I've made a video on this tournament before, but it's a pretty old video, and honestly, it's not that great, so I'm going to go in pretty big detail here because this is my team, and I'm going to sit here and yap about them. In round 1, we lost a very close 5-map series against the Chengdu Hunters, and I'll be honest, maybe I'm biased, scratch that, I'm very biased, but I think if Pelican was there with the team and not on ping, we would have won that series. However, we didn't, and we were sent down to the lower bracket really early. We had to fight our way through elimination matches. We quickly beat the Washington Justice 3-0, who were honestly just happy to make the playoffs. We then faced against the LA Gladiators, who had just beaten us in the Countdown Cup only a few weeks prior. Now, I would show you footage of this game and the next few, but apparently, most of these games in the 2021 playoffs are fucking copyrighted for some reason, and I'm not allowed to use their footage without getting this video claimed, so please, bear with me, and just enjoy watching the Reign beat the shit out of the Justice the entire time I talk about the playoffs. The Gladiators were a very scary opponent, and they immediately took Ilios in map 1 in a dominant fashion, and honestly, kinda thought we were done at that point. We decided to take a crazy gamble, surprising everyone by picking Hanamura for map 2, which, if you didn't know, just a few weeks before, the Gladiators actually set a record against us for fastest time to complete the map, so this was a very risky pick. However, the Reign clearly had a plan, and they quickly took over the map. Lots of great symmetric TPs and great team play. They capped the point with lots of time, and it seemed like the momentum in the series really shifted. Not only did we take Hanamura, but we also took the next map, King's Row. After a loss on Dorado, we'd make it all the way to a map 5, where we'd rally back on Nepal and upset the Gladiators in one of the best games of the playoffs. At this point, I was more than satisfied with our great playoff wins, but the Reign weren't quite done yet. They moved into the top 4 to face the defending champions, the defending 2-time champions, the San Francisco Shock. This series was pretty back and forth until one key moment turned the tides. If you've watched the Overwatch League, you probably know this clip, but I love it, so I'm just going to play it several times. Violet gets a notification from his PayPal and decides to jump up into the air for a free opening pick by Kai, and the series completely spiraled out of control from the Shock from here, allowing the Atlanta Reign to beat them 3-1 and move on to face the Dallas Fuel in the lower bracket finals. Also, it's not really important or anything, but right as the Shock get eliminated, Hawk says, "3-peat my asshole," which is why Hawk is the best. The match against the Dallas Fuel was really late into the night, starting at nearly 11 p.m. for me, but I stayed up eagerly for this game, excited that we even made it this far. Li Zhang was pretty close, but the Fuel took it, continuing the Reign streak of losing map 1. Dallas had our number all season long, but we yet again brought on the Hanamura pick, and our signature rush comp was just a little bit too much for Dallas to handle. We not only tied up the series, but we followed it up with a huge win on King's Row yet again in extra rounds, taking a 2-1 series lead. It was at this point where I suddenly realized that we actually had a chance to do it. We had a chance to upset and beat the Dallas Fuel, who had been so good the whole season. I don't really know why, but map 4, Dorado, was just a banger. Lots of great plays from both sides. Special shout out to Masa and Iris, who both played insane on Lucio Baptiste. Finally, around 1 in the morning for me, it finally happened. The Fuel struggled to cap and C, and the Reign completed the most insane lower bracket run of all time to make it all the way to the grand finals. Simply one of the most incredible moments as a Reign fan, watching as they defied all expectation and climbed their ways to the finals. It was an incredible moment, and I remember waking multiple family members up cheering in celebration. However, most of you know where this story ends. In the finals, the Shanghai Dragons just beat the shit out of the Reign. This finals was not even close, probably the least close finals in all of Overwatch League history. Despite watching my team get just brutalized, I was still insanely proud. Making it to the grand finals when I don't think anyone expected them to, I was really expecting just maybe a playoff win, probably beat the Justice, and that'd be about it. But this was more than enough, and I will forever look back on the 2021 season very fondly. Also, Pelican, who had been our backbone all season, won a very deserved Rookie of the Year award. I'm very biased, but I think Hawk and Pelican both deserved a Roll Star for that year too. This roster was truly something else, and I'm thankful for the great memories in 2021. But like all good things, it has to come to an end. And heading into the 2022 offseason, I had to say goodbye to several of my favorite players. For starters, both of our support players would be leaving. Masa left for the Vancouver Titans, and Iris left and joined the Houston Outlaws. Later, the Seoul Dynasty. We managed to keep Hawk, Gator, and Kai, but we lose Edison to the Dallas Fuel. Our biggest loss, though, was our Rookie of the Year, Pelican, who unfortunately joined Iris on the Houston Outlaws, and I'm not gonna lie, that one hurt a lot. I had really grown attached to Pelican, and I still rooted for him on the Outlaws, but it hurt to see him go. The Outlaws kind of became a secondary team for me almost, I really wanted to see that guy succeed. As for who replaced our missing players, we were able to sign a plethora of young talent. We picked up the American Tornado backline, Ultraviolet and OG, as well as DPS players Venom, Nero, and Speedily. Later in the season, we would also acquire Korean flex support Vigilante, but he wouldn't really get to play very much. This roster was pretty hyped up as a great core, full of Western North American talent. We were expected to compete in North America, and entering the kickoff clash, the team struggled a lot. We went 3-3, including a brutal 5-map loss to the London Spitfire. The Reign entered the tournament as the 7th seed, after losing 2 straight heading into the bracket. However, they would surprise everyone, upsetting the 3 seed Florida Mayhem and the number 1 seed San Francisco Shock in back-to-back games to make it to the winners' finals. They delivered the Shock their first loss of the season, since they were 6-0 heading into the tournament. Unfortunately, the Gladiators and Fuel would prove to be a little too much to handle, and they would get eliminated in 3rd place. Still, another great stage performance, going from barely in the tournament to top 3 is very good. The next stage, the Mid-Season Madness, was going to be the only international tournament of the season besides the playoffs, so qualifying for that was as important as ever. However, the Reign did struggle yet again. They managed to beat the Dallas Fuel, but fell victim to potentially the worst C9 in Overwatch League history, known as the Hawk Despair C9. Still, the Reign finished the first half of the season with a 7-5 record, which did qualify them for the Mid-Season Madness as the 9th seed. 2022 Mid-Season Madness was, in my opinion, the single best Overwatch League tournament, and I have a whole video talking about it in detail, so if you want a full recap, go check that out. But for now, I'm just going to go over what the Reign did, and it started out rough. In the first game against London, they got beat pretty bad, with Backbone styling on us on Zenyatta. However, the lower bracket seems to just be where the rain shines, as they begun their run taking on the dominant Seoul Dynasty, who had just won the kickoff clash over in Asia. This match was a heater, trading maps back and forth as the Dynasty struggled to adapt to the Reign's unique style. Hawk in particular played insane the whole tournament, establishing himself as a top North American tank. They would upset the Dynasty and move on to a revenge match against the Outlaws. They started out slow, going down 0-1, but Hawk and Kai just took over, taking the series 3-1 and advancing to face off against yet another revenge game, this time against the Shanghai Dragons, in a rematch of that brutal 2021 Grand Finals. This match was insanely close, with Lip single-handedly making this one a complete banger, fighting desperately to carry his team to success, but the Reign were just too clutch, with Kai yet again doing unspeakable things on the Sojourn. The Reign got their revenge for last season finals, and advanced all the way to the top 4, facing off against the Philadelphia Fusion, who were midway through a lower bracket run of their own. Aside from Route 66, the Ballos trio was not enough to take them down, and the Reign made it back to the top 3 in back-to-back tournaments. Unfortunately, the Gladiators just yet again had the best of us, ending our lower bracket run one game away from the finals. Despite this though, man, what an insane run. Honestly, I was hoping for 1, maybe 2 wins, but getting 4 back-to-back in elimination matches to make it all the way to top 3 was more than perfect. On top of that, the Reign single-handedly eliminated 3 out of 4 teams from the APAC region. The hype for the Atlanta Reign the rest of the season was real, but the season began to go downhill from here. In the Summer Showdown, the Jotes meta began, and the Reign seemed to really struggle, with the sole exception of Hawk, who, despite the team going 2-4 this stage, was still statistically one of the best Junker Queen players in the league, earning him the title of Jote, aka Jack of all tanks, since he just seemed to be really good at all of them. Also, yes, you heard me correctly, the Reign went 2-4 in this stage and didn't make the tournament. In the Countdown Cup though, the Reign managed to finish out the season 4-2, giving them a barely positive, but still positive, 13-11 record, which was good enough for 5th place in North America, auto-qualifying them for the playoffs. However, in said playoffs, disaster struck. The team looked uncoordinated, and they get beaten by the Florida Mayhem not once, but twice, back-to-back in the same tournament, eliminating them pretty early. Not exactly the ending to the season I wanted, but definitely still a solid season with some really great moments, but nothing could have prepared me for the insanity that would be the 2023 off-season. On November 11th, 2022, we dropped the entire roster, losing Venom, Speedily, Nero, OG, Ultraviolet, and Gator. Then, a couple days later, the Reign announced that Kai was leaving for the LA Gladiators, and at that point, I was feeling hopeless, watching every single member of my team leave except for Hawk and Vigilante. However, that same day, the Reign announced the signing of Korean DPS player Stalker, who at the time was an up-and-coming player with a lot of potential to be pretty good, which got me excited, hoping maybe the team was going to go for a big rebuild. Later that same day, though, I began to hear rumors that the Reign were making huge moves, potentially trying to sign DPS superstar Lip. I remember being so excited for this huge move. Not only did we end up signing Lip, but we also got the backline that had literally just won a tournament last season, Builder and Chio. To complete this roster, we also signed rookie tank player Donghak, who was completely an unknown prospect at the time. This team was a powerhouse, and on paper, it was the best roster the Reign ever assembled. This was our year, and the Reign immediately proved why I was so excited for them. To say the Reign were dominant in the spring stage would be an understatement. We went a perfect 8-0, only losing 2 maps total. That's right, maps. Their map score was 24-2 throughout the first 8 games, and they entered the 2023 Mid-Season Madness, which was unfortunately the last ever Overwatch League stage tournament, as the number 1 seed. They crushed the Spark 3-0, and battled it out in a very close game against the Houston Outlaws, winning 3-2 to advance to the Grand Finals, with their very first stage win in franchise history being only 1 game away. The Outlaws met them in a rematch in Grand Finals, but this time it wasn't very close. The Reign crushed the Outlaws 4-1, and I got to watch the Reign finally win the tournament I had always hoped they would. As an Atlanta sports fan, I'm not really used to seeing my team succeed. So it was an incredible moment getting to watch the Reign finally bring it home. Stalker emerged as an incredible Tracer player, and even Donghack was getting lots of love for going toe-to-toe with Prime Fearless. In the summer stage, the meta shifted away from Tracer Sombra Winston, which made the Reign struggle a little bit more than they did before. They lost back-to-back games to the Outlaws and Mayhem, but those are the other two best teams, and the matches were really close, so I wasn't really worried. They still performed very well, going 6-2, and finishing off their dominant season with a 14-2 record, which was the best in the league, giving them the number 1 seed in the playoffs. However, internal turmoil had begun to start to show. Apparently Chio was not very kind to Donghack, making him feel isolated. There was lots of internal drama. Apparently there were exclusions of players who didn't speak Korean, like Hawk. Several other factors that just kind of caused the Reign to look very shaky going into the playoffs. In their first game against the Spark, the Reign went up 2-0, and it looked like maybe things would be fine. But the Spark ended up reverse sweeping them, and by map 5, you could visibly see their dysfunction. They faced off against the Spitfire next, but the team was already boomed, and I was reminded all too much of the 2016 Falcons. So good, but just couldn't clutch up when it mattered. For Atlanta Reign fans, their match against the Spark was like our version of 28-3. So close, but not able to clutch up when it mattered most. The Reign would end up getting eliminated early, and that was it. After the 2023 season, the Overwatch League disbanded, and as did most teams, the Reign unfortunately included. The Overwatch League was a major part of my childhood, and the Reign were my team throughout it all. Really sad to see them go, this team I supported for so long. As Dr. Seuss once said, "Don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened." I feel like this perfectly encapsulates how I feel about the Atlanta Reign. As sad as I am that the Reign and the league itself are gone, I think that the current set of Overwatch esports and OWCS is really good, and I don't think it could have become as good as it is today without the league going away. I guess what I'm trying to say is, I'm really thankful for the Atlanta Reign for being my team growing up. And even though the Atlanta Reign are gone, I'll forever remember them as my team. The Reign were undoubtedly a great franchise, not only winning a stage, but having multiple great seasons, several amazing playoff runs, lots of great games, great moments, and lots of great memories. Thank you so much for watching. Before you click off the video, please consider subscribing to the channel. I worked really hard on this video. This video means a lot to me, and if you enjoyed it, a little help goes a long way. Subscribing and leaving a comment really helped me out more than you think, and it only takes seconds. I've got a ton more videos all about Overwatch and Overwatch esports coming up, so please stay tuned for more. I've also got another Overwatch League game show in the works, so I hope you enjoy that too. I got a Twitter, link in the description, so go check me out there. With that said, I appreciate you if you're still here. Thank you so much for watching. Love you guys.